There's a bit of banter between it and ChatGPT though, which was interesting. When you get stuck on something, you take the output from Cursor and you put it into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT go, "Oh yeah, it's done a good job, but it's missed this. Go and tell it. Go and give it this prompt."
You're listening to Around the School Table, hosted by me, Steve Davis, and proudly powered by Xuno Suite. We'll be bringing together the many voices shaping primary and secondary education across Australia, from principals and teachers to education thought leaders and system innovators. Whether you're in the classroom, the staff room, or the boardroom, this is your podcast to be informed, inspired, and connected. Today on Around the School Table, we're joined by Paul James. He's the IT Manager at St Ignatius College in Geelong. He's a leader whose work touches everything from cybersecurity to classroom innovation. Paul's at the forefront of integrating AI and advanced tech into school operations, finding ways to make daily tasks smarter, safer, and more efficient. In this episode, we'll unpack how Paul uses cutting-edge tools to protect and empower his school community while exploring the art of prompting with AI, and we'll also learn how he navigates the opportunities and the challenges that technology brings to education. So if you are curious at all about harnessing AI for real impact while keeping integrity and equity front and centre, I think you found the perfect conversation. Paul, welcome to Around the School Table.
Thanks, Steve.
Now, I believe your role at St Ignatius means basically anything with electricity running through it falls under your domain. Can you walk us through the scope of your role and then how tools like Darktrace, for example, help you stay ahead of security threats?
Yeah, I think you've summed it up. Basically, anything that has an electron flowing through it comes across the ICT desk. Everything from audio, visual to all sorts of pieces of hardware. I suppose that our job is to make everything fit together and talk nicely on our fairly vast network, and also be secure. We've been through a number of technologies over the years, as far as network security and whatnot. But recently we implemented Darktrace, which is an AI-based tool, and its job is to analyze what people are doing on the network. So it begins to understand everyone's behaviour from devices to people, and reacts accordingly. So at the moment, it will alert us if something is out of the ordinary, but it also has the capability to intervene to actually stop something. So it means that I don't have to sit up all night and watch the network to keep things safe.
That is mind-boggling at many levels. How smart is this system in not ringing the alarm bells if someone is just going a little bit left of centre in course of a legitimate research tangent?
Yeah, it's certainly a time saver for us, because in the past with other forms of security we've sort of got into a real level of detail, and that's been time consuming. Whereas we find, because of the smarts are in this system, it frees us up a bit more, and we're only dealing with stuff that is actually considered a threat.
Right, okay. And I suppose if there are those edge cases, well, that's still less than you'd be dealing in a really binary system where, no, that's it, and it doesn't have that smarts to understand nuance.
Yeah, that's right. There's heaps of as they call them, false positives
Yeah.
there. Yeah. Whereas this basically tells us, so I think it's almost in fairly plain English what we're looking at and what we need to do.
Wow. Now, you've also been experimenting with this thing called vibe coding, in particular Cursor and ChatGPT. How's that collaboration between AI and coding enhanced your workflow? I mean, what's the importance of the 4 elements of prompting, which you talk about? You actually call that an art form. So let's pull back the covers on that.
So that was my homework, and I still haven't actually done my homework of those. I haven't got those refined four elements for you yet, but I'll get those. But yeah, this all started with a workmate of mine. I'll call him my 2IC.
Hmm.
He is the real talent behind this. So basically, we'll sit down together and work out what we need to solve, what our current issues are, and then basically work between ChatGPT and this tool called Cursor to create the software to solve the problems.
What sort of things have you solved with it?
All right, so I'll try not to tell too much of a long-winded story here, but we we run a learning management system called Canvas, and a very powerful system. Like other good systems, has API integration, and we always dreamt of automating a fair bit of the things that it does, and also being able to monitor it for usage and changes and all that sort of thing. And we began a little while ago trying to write these APIs. We couldn't get very far, just not nerdy enough. We had another guy in the office who was studying this sort of stuff at uni, and he was able to get a lot further. So he was able to write some bits of code to go in and check assessment tasks and formatting ahead of the reporting cycle. And then the request list sort of grew, and it wasn't fair to keep asking him to keep up with that. So I spoke to my colleague, and he ran away with Cursor, and he came back in 40 minutes. I timed him, and he had some basic queries done, and a graphical user interface written to be able to look at courses where teachers hadn't put marks in, and comments, so that that sort of stuff could be followed up by deputy principals. So that was just the basics. So that was quite amazing.
That is incredible. So what that's doing, in my layperson's understanding, is being the interface between the human that needs something and the very specific framework of language that the API and the coding infrastructure needs, and basically acting as a translation tool.
That's exactly right. It's kind of taking when you're trying to solve a problem, you get bogged down in the actual code, and you spend all your time trying things to get it to work. Whereas this just has freed us up to be creative. So instead of writing code, we're sitting with a whiteboard and we're going, well, if we do this and that and this, maybe this is the outcome. And sure enough, it's the Cursor has been able to deliver. One of the things that we did discover, and this is what programmers know, and we're a bit naive with, is a thing called feature creep. So we kept throwing ideas at the program, and the code was becoming enormous. And as Hamish said, it just kept breaking.
Yeah.
So we've kind of reined it in and really just focus on the things that we need to do.
So where it's not like reality is it didn't give you attitude over that feature creep.
It didn't, no. There's a bit of banter between it and ChatGPT though, which was interesting, because when you get stuck on something, you take the output from Cursor and you put it into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT go, oh yeah, it's done a good job, but it's missed this. So I'll just have a quick read of the manual. Yeah, go and tell it, go and give it this prompt. So that was fascinating too, to see that banter occurring.
Let's move into proactive data use, because I believe you're leveraging AI agents to support tasks like onboarding teachers, reminders for marking. What sort of impact is this having on day-to-day operations?
Yeah, well, not a lot at the moment, because I'd like to say we're still in the early stages,
Okay.
and we've just moved from the sandbox environment to our live environment, because of course, without understanding fully what this does, because we're at the point where we're not just analyzing the learning management system, we're actually making amendments to things now. So it'll go, the code will, the program will come back to us and say, oh, these assessment tasks, the weighting doesn't add up to 100, or there's brackets missing on this percentage. And then you can say, please go in and fix it, and away it will go. It'll go in and make the adjustments and come back and report on that. So all these other ideas we're still in the sandbox with it. One of the other systems that we're hoping we're working with Xuno at the moment, because we'd really love to be able to interface their software, and I think that's when there'll be some real power there with being able to analyze attendance and then generate those proper attendance reminders for teachers.
Actually, just on that, Paul, I've got to jump in because a little birdie's told me that you regularly provide ideas and feedback to the Xuno Suite team. That's the team that makes this podcast responsible. And these often end up becoming features in the software. You've just started touching on it, but what's your wish list for AI integration? If you were ruler of the world, what would you decree?
Oh, wow. Oh, how much tape do you have? I mean, the ultimate, and in fact, I was talking about this with Xuno just the other day, is to give software a personality. Because I think you truly, when you can engage emotionally with something, it's meaningful, and you're attracted to it. You want to use it. I'm just thinking about all the whiz-bang stuff that Xuno is offering, as far as student maps, data analysis, offering your data in graphs and all that sort of thing. I think when you start to think about it from the different personas that are accessing the system, not everyone's a data expert, and not everyone can look at a graph and go, oh, okay, yep, that's where I'm going wrong. That's what I need to adjust. Whereas I see AI taking us into an area where we're using plain English to interact with the system. For example, I might be a Year 9 coordinator, and I would like to know, Xuno, how many students are, have an absence rate of below 80% for the week. Can you please tell me? And I'd love to see the AI go, yep, that's this list of students. Would you like me to create you a reminder and email you weekly, or, text you weekly, or something to that effect? So just bringing in a bit more of a human element. And I don't see that's not that far down the track, I think.
That's one thing. And then the personality layered on top of that would be fascinating, because I had to do a long car trip with someone last year for a different project, and we were able to make little barbed comments and a bit of dry humour along the way, and it just kept you alive. It kept you awake. And it's the same in the workplace. I look forward to that, because what you've just suggested there isn't necessarily affecting the hard-coded wiring. It's at the interface level, in that connection with the human who's using it.
Yeah, and I don't like the thought of replacing humans and jobs and things like that, but I think if you can give it the mundane tasks, it can do the mundane analysis and handle data very quickly. But then just have that sort of jovial element to it, where you can either type, freely, or speak freely to it. And then another harebrained idea is to have a different interface for each persona. So, say if a principal was using it, he might have something that's a bit more formal, a more formal interface. Whereas if a student's logging into Xuno to check their timetable or their affirmations or their infringements, their interaction could be a bit more jovial.
Still juggling forms the old-fashioned way? Say hello to Student Forms by Xuno. You can create, collect, and manage all your student forms online in one simple, secure platform. Save time, stay organised, and quick access everything you need, anytime. Visit xuno.com.au and see how Student Forms by Xuno can work for your school.
We're touching into an area of the creative side of this now, and it might surprise you. You and I both have a very same set of principles. We both think that human creativity thrives when we operate within a set of limitations. That's the spark that leads to creativity. AI, of course, removes all those limitations. The sky is the limit. Do you think that freedom is liberating, or is it overwhelming for educators and tech users?
That's a really interesting question, because it can be overwhelming. I certainly think really you do need baby steps there. And in fact, my colleague Hamish and I took a step back the other day and we thought, well, we kind of need, organisations can put policies around this kind of thing, but I think you'd almost need a charter, something that guides you. And so we actually used ChatGPT, and we fed it all these documents. We got the AI policies from the Department of Education. We've got, because we're a Jesuit aligned college, we fed it some of those values. We found all these documents and we just fed it into the charter, things around the environmental impact. It's put together this amazing sort of guiding document. So it really makes you think about environment, security, values, just all those things from a higher level before you get too far down the track with it. And I think if you really look at it like that, that can take some of the overwhelming aspects out of it.
So what we were talking about there is that information, those insights were there, but they were lurking, they were buried in tomes of data, and this has helped go panning for gold, if you like.
I think it helps you not get too focused on one thing. So, not just, it's almost like red line fever. I want to solve that problem. AI is going to help me. I'm going to do this. And then you forget about all the collateral damage along the way, like security and humans getting upset and that kind of thing. Whereas having a document to clearly guide you and to help you question everything you do along the way is really important. In fact, I was talking to Xuno about that the other day, just about, I'd love to work with them to talk about this charter with them as well and get their view on it.
I want to broaden our reflection now to the context of Australian schools. Resourcing, digital literacy, it can vary widely. How do you see AI levelling the playing field or potentially widening the gap between the well-resourced schools and the under-resourced schools? What's your intuition? What are you seeing?
I suppose a lot of what I'm focused on is the business side of things at the moment. And I probably do need to expand my horizons, a lot more into how it's affecting teaching and learning. Because, in IT, you tend to spend all your time keeping the wheels on. But what I imagine where it's going is that it's going to allow schools to tailor programs, because we always talk about learning styles, and it will be able to deliver the content for the teachers in that particular learning style. So I imagine the interaction with the student, it can discover how the student likes to learn and then take the content that the teacher wants to deliver and adjust it, and then also measure how well the student is absorbing that information. Once again, you look at replacing people in job, it'll never replace a teacher in a job, but it will just basically enhance what they do.
Because what you're suggesting is it gives teachers extra sets of eyes and ears where students might have slipped through the gaps, they can be brought to the attention of the teacher.
That's right. I think, traditionally you're kind of relying on your term or your semester reporting to see how people are tracking, whereas this will help you track and identify issues a lot sooner.
And that's great in the classroom scenario, but just back to the schools, do you see it widening gaps or do you see it levelling playing fields, or is it staggered? Are the better resource schools going to set up some infrastructure and systems that then become more cost effective for other schools perhaps?
Yeah, it's interesting because I see these tools as being accessible by everyone. It's really going to come down to leadership at the school and how willing they are to implement these systems.
AI is being used to help create lesson plans. You've touched on that just lightly in our conversation. Students are using it to answer some of the challenges that they've faced. Let's just reflect on that balance. What is the balance that can be struck between embracing AI as a tool and maintaining academic integrity on the way?
It's a difficult one, that, because I've got a lot of teacher colleagues that come in and talk to me about how they're using AI to prepare lesson plans and to extend what they're doing. They're obviously, I think they're using it very well and very thoughtfully at the moment. I think, with plagiarism and things like that, maybe we need to catch up a little bit in that area. I don't have any good answers for you at the moment around that. I'm sorry. It's an area I need to look more into.
Yeah, well, we're all learning at fast rate because we're right all at the edge of this as it progresses. Well, I guess the pigeon pair here is we're talking about AI impacting the classroom, but from your perspective too, you'll be relieved I'm moving away from teaching.
Thanks.
Facilities management, like monitoring energy uses, controlling lighting. Have you explored any practical applications like this at St Ignatius? And what role do you see AI playing in this part of school management outside the classroom?
Oh, this is okay. Thank you. This is probably more along my lines, being a bit more nerdy. Well, our school has grown. I've watched it grown. I won't say higgledy-piggledy, but it's not like we just built a school from scratch. So we've added, sort of major infrastructure to it over time. And what that means is you get different technologies in different buildings. So different control systems for your HVAC, for your lighting, for your security, all those kind of things. And I think that to have a school work efficiently, probably from an environmental security, just consistency in building control, I see AI being able to take all those systems and find a common control ground on them. And I'm really excited to start exploring that area. For example, we've got, solar panels on a couple of our new buildings, yet they're sort of tucked away. All that data's tucked away. And we've recently implemented a system called Vivi, which allows us to wirelessly screen share to televisions dotted around the school, and also produce some news feeds. And I would love to be able to take some of the infrastructure data and actually feed it to those screens so that students can see, oh yeah, we're generating this amount of solar power today, we're using X amount of electricity, we're using X amount of water, just to bring not from just a management point of view, but just an awareness point of view. I think AI can help with the infrastructure side of things.
Some people listening to this might be a little bit surprised, Paul. I'm talking to, an ICT person, and you seem open to exploring things. And for many of us, our experience is that department's where everyone just says no by default.
No.
What's the difference here? I don't know if you're alone in this or whether there is a shift and maybe AI is softening some of those hard edges. I mean, in some cases, there's also makes it harder, puts the steel wall down further. What's going on?
Well, I often think that being everyone in an IT department, whether they like it or not, ends up becoming an analyst of some sort. Basically, because you're constantly facing problems and you're trying to find solutions. So you try and stay in your lane as much as you can, but you also look at the environment around you and you want to help solve problems. And then suddenly when you've got tools like this that allow you to use the right side of your brain a bit more and be a bit creative and think, yeah, okay, I can actually use this to gather to interface other systems, gather data, have it make suggestions, and then actually help control the environment, therefore freeing humans up to do other things.
So it's not just you, there is a movement afoot.
Well, definitely in my team, we do love to talk about it.
Okay. Very good.
And we've got a mix of personalities. We've got the people that'll go, hey, stop dreaming too big and let's focus on the day stuff. Yeah, it works well. It's a good balance.
If you were looking at the palette of different tools available out there, what are some that not so much you recommend, but you find helpful, especially for people who are perhaps tipping their toe into the water here to start, both from a teaching perspective but also from a management perspective in schools? Are there any that jump to the fore that you've been seeing some sort of positive outcomes from?
Yeah, I'll just stick with the basics here. We've been grappling with which because we really want to guide our organisation on the tools to use, and you sort of start with broad brushstrokes, and you look at your ChatGPT, your Gemini, your Copilot, all the major AI systems. I'm still trying to work out what metrics to use to guide, but I think just judging by what I'm hearing, most people are gravitating to ChatGPT. And I think that's a really good starting point. You can have a great conversation with ChatGPT and from there start to learn which other AI system will suit what you're trying to achieve.
It is. I mean, my other favourite is Claude when it comes to crafting things in a more human-friendly language style. I think it's got a slight edge over ChatGPT, but if you're needing a Swiss Army knife sort of tool, ChatGPT can switch from business document to other pursuits with aplomb.
Yeah, it's certainly the one I hear the most about from people that walk through my door.
Yeah. And is there anything you'd say to people who don't want to embrace?
I think you do need to engage at some stage. Yeah, it's going to affect not just your work life, but your personal life. You need to have a certain level of understanding. Don't go it alone. Find other people that have tried things and are interested in it, and have conversations with humans around it. That would be my advice.
And one off-the-cuff thing, we talked about personas in your software before. Could you see a day where St Ignatius could move to capture and distill the essence of the original St Ignatius with depth and with nuance, to have an ability to have a virtual conversation?
That is fascinating. I definitely do see that. My son has been trying to generate an AI version of himself. He spent quite a bit of time doing that. Yeah, I've had conversations with his AI persona, and it's quite amazing. So I do see a time when, we could have a St Ignatius AI model that could allow us to interact with all of our learning management system, our student management system, all those various systems. I think that's not far-fetched at all.
It could be geared to be the devil's advocate's the wrong term, but the voice of the ethical considerations as you move forward, just to pose those questions.
That is so true. Yep. It could be the lens. Yeah.
There you go. Paul James, thank you so much for joining me around the school table.
Thanks very much for having me, Steve.